So every parent has this moment that you're looking at your kid and you suddenly realize they're not that same little kid they were many years ago. They're stronger, they're smarter, they're funnier, they're more capable, they're more sarcastic. I mean, here's the problem. When you're in the middle of parenting, correcting behavior, enforcing rules, and getting through homework, just getting through dinner, you're so close to it that you forget to step back and see how incredible they're actually becoming. So today we're going to talk about how something every parent needs to do more often, which is just stepping back and actually just recognize the person that your child is becoming. So welcome back to the Dad Compass podcast. I'm your host, Dimitri.
I'm your host, Patrick. So what was that moment for you?
Uh, you know, I want to say it was last weekend, but I feel like I have that moment more and more often every single day where we might be doing something and then my kids say something. They show interest in a book or a topic. Like my son's been asking, he's got this frog that we dissected. And when we first got it, it wasn't anything special to him. It wasn't anything crazy. But now he looks at it and he enjoys it and he's asking questions about, hey, what's this body part? What's that body part? So I think it's on a daily, but the difficult thing is when you have your days going on, to step back and actually just enjoy those times and realize that, you couldn't read before and now you're reading street signs. I might get frustrated because I just want a bit of peace and quiet. But at the same time, holy shit, man, I'm proud of those. And my daughter, she's getting older and she's going to be double digits this year. With her, it's especially difficult because she tries and tests every single boundary known to man. She's incredibly hard-headed, and it's very difficult to move back and say, Allie, I'm really, really proud of you. Because most of the time I'm like, you're really, really pushing every single last button that I have. She's ordering clothes off Amazon. And there's two things that we can do as parents and as fathers, especially with daughters, is we could look at what they want to wear and say, absolutely not. That is ridiculous. There's no chance in hell. And then you take a step back and you realize, okay, well, is it really that bad? You want to wear sweatpants, a crop top, and a hoodie over it? No, nobody gives a shit. But you care. So I think for me, that stepping back isn't necessarily saying how incredible and how wonderful they are, but it's realizing that when I was a kid, the last thing you want a parent to do is to control every single aspect of your life. You want to have some sense of independence. So with her especially, I think it's important for me to kind of appreciate that and give her a little bit of space. How about yourself?
I mean,
I didn't even say Ian.
you didn't even say Ian, which is what started this conversation.
He's got a HOSA conference coming up this week, which is a competition through his school for like EMT and EMS students or people that are going to become in that field. So we had to get him a suit. He's going to this event in Hershey for like 3 days. And it's a big competition. If they win, then they go to like nationals. That kid surprises me. He's someone that doesn't have much common sense, but he is so unbelievably smart. Like I can't imagine like being how awesome he is in his head and the things that he's doing.
So he's more book smart than he is street smart.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, he hasn't had I think the street smarts we develop once you make mistakes. And I think the more mistakes in life that you create is how you develop those street smarts. It's the common sense because in order for something to become common, it has to be in your day to day. So if you're making these mistakes, eventually you're like, oh, this is a stupid thing I've been doing for all these years, and it just clicks. It's like, my brother-in-law, or we used to talk about, he's like, there's an age where all of a sudden you hit and you're like, wow, I'm not retarded anymore. Something just clicks and you don't know what it is, but there's something inside you that things just start to make sense. And I think he's at that age. And it's really, really fun to see for the most part.
Yeah, I think for me, it's probably once my boys started turning into teenagers, it became more of a I felt like it was more like a mentorship than parenting, if that makes sense. Like I was still parenting them by guiding them through decision making, but it wasn't don't do that. Don't do that. You can't do that. It was more of what did you learn from that and what would you do differently next time? So it kind of shifted for me, but it made me, to your point, like it kind of made me appreciate the people that they're becoming. And I have a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old. So with those two specifically, like it sucks watching them grow and do their own thing. But at the same time, like you said, kind of step back and watch what they're doing and watch what they're capable of doing. It's pretty impressive. I couldn't do what Logan's doing. Second year in college, he's a fantastic writer, and he didn't get it from me. I'll tell you that. And then Davis, the same thing. Like Davis is just not a writer, but like he's just got this maturity about him. He made varsity volleyball this year. He actually started last week. So that was, the dude went from JV2 to varsity in a year, and he worked his ass off. And I didn't do anything. Like it was just his own drive to want to be better.
I'm guessing his new team is a lot better.
So yeah, they're 2-1. They lost to the state champs on Thursday night. And Davis has actually been sick, so he didn't play the second game because he ended up with the influenza B. But I think that they're a pretty decent team so far in the games that I've seen.
Yeah.
And I think for him, he likes it better. Like he was by far the best player on his team in the club volleyball, and I think it was super frustrating for him.
And now he's got more people kind of on his level allows him to grow.
Exactly. Yeah, he's not even the best player on this team. He's good, but he's not the best player.
No, that's good. You don't want to be the best. If you're the best, you have nothing to learn. You get like your head full of shit.
But it's even with Jackson. Like I don't really parent Jackson anymore. I feel like I more mentor him. Like he's my little buddy,
Yeah. You're guiding him through the beginning of adulthood.
Yeah.
So you think that there's well, maybe I'll save this question, but let's do this. Why do you think parents notice mistakes more than accomplishments? Like, what do you think? How do you think we're missing our growth or their growth because of the things that we say on a day to day? Do you think that if we're kind of talking down to them or like snapping over little things, or we're hindering their progress, or just making them feel like they don't really matter?
Yeah, I think Logan and I have struggled with this in the past, probably when he was a teenager. I think he felt like he could never do anything right because I would give him a chore. He would do the chore. He wouldn't do it the way that I wanted. So then I would say something. And it wasn't like I would scream at him like, what are you, fucking stupid? It wasn't like that. It was more of like wanting him to learn. And like Logan's not lazy. He's not lazy at all.
Sure.
But in those situations, he was being lazy. And so
that's fair.
I was trying to like tell him that this isn't acceptable in life.
Yeah.
Not just in this house. Like you just can't do that kind of stuff. And of course you can, because that's what society is now, but trying to get him to elevate.
Yeah, I mean, I think the chore thing is kind of funny that you bring that up. Like my kids, it's Sunday. There's always chores. They have stuff to do. Ian has his set of things to do. Ellie has hers, and Ronan has his. It took months of telling them, listen, if your job is to clean up the bathrooms, and I walk back in the bathrooms and there's shit everywhere. As in, like, there's things that aren't organized, or just little things that you
Not
could
real
have
shit.
taken a second. Yeah, not real
There's
shit.
real
Hopefully
shit
not.
everywhere.
You better clean it up. You know? But I think the thing that I try to drill into, and like the past couple of weeks has actually been good, is, hey, if you see something, I don't care if it's not your job, but help out and make it right. Because what ends up happening is, if I walk in and I already see things all over the place, whatever job that you just did is now discredited in my eyes. And it's not because you might have done a bad job with what you're supposed to do, but you purposely ignored the rest of the mess. And I said, and that's not fair. You know, there's I kind of realized that for me, it's more so not setting the right expectations, not communicating clearly enough. Because the assumption is, go clean the bathroom. In my head, okay, that means the whole entire bath. That means everything that I see needs to be organized, straightened. In their head, it's, no, I'm just going to clean X, Y, and Z. So once you're able to, I think as they get older, we learn how to communicate better. At least me, I'm learning how to communicate a bit better. And with that communication, it's becoming so much easier to kind of appreciate what they're doing, because now I'm giving them my expectations and what there is to be appreciative about, unless there's attitude that comes with it.
No, it's a great point. And that's kind of, I've talked about this a couple times on here, but when I read extreme ownership, it changed the way that I communicate with my kids. To your point, when I say clean the bathroom, what does that mean to you? Okay, that's not what I meant. This is what I meant.
Yep.
And that's where Logan and I would have rubs. Take out the trash. So he takes the trash out. For me, it's common sense. You take out the trash, you put a new bag in. It wasn't for Logan, so Logan wouldn't do that. And so instead of appreciating that he took out the trash, I would criticize, and then his feelings would get hurt. But as I got older, I realized, hey, take out the trash and don't forget to replace the bag.
Yeah.
And then it was a non-factor. And like, we grew out of it. It was definitely in his teenage years, but I also, and this isn't his early teenagers years is what I meant to say. I also was relying on Logan for his support with the family, because it was just me and them.
Yeah.
You know, I had gone through the divorce already, and I didn't have anybody else. So here it's just a little bit different. We just have a little bit different structures. But
so through the years, things change.
Yeah, I think so.
It's like we become better. And like, when I say take out the trash, for me, it's, you're obviously going to put a trash bag back into it, and they don't think about that, because they just hear the direct instructions and they just do specifically and exactly what you said. So like, what I'm learning is, it's not that I'm not feeding them the wrong instruction. I'm feeding them the wrong expectation. And that's kind of like difficult, because I have to explain to them, like, listen, if I say do this, this, and this, I'm not saying, hey, there's 30 more steps for you to do. I'm reminding you and having you understand what my expectation is, because that's going to save me the frustration. I don't want to come up and have to check your guys' work and see that everything's still messy. That's not fair. I don't think that's fair to me, nor is it fair to you, because I expect you to do a good job. You do a good job, and we're good. I had a couple weeks ago, I had them all up there, and I'm like, nobody's allowed down. Not one person is allowed down until everything is done. And when it's all done, each one of you is going to check each other's work and decide that if it's good, then I'll come up and check it. In the beginning, it was chaos. You know, Ian was like a dictator. My daughter's like a dictator. But towards the end of it, they started to work together. They started to help each other out. And I said, "Do you see how much easier that is? When you start working together as a team and you're appreciating what the other person is saying instead of getting upset. Oh, well, no, I cleaned that. Okay, well, I'm just letting you know that it's not as clean as Dad's probably going to like it, and we're all going to get in trouble." There's a For me, that moment of growth with him was pretty great, and appreciated when you see your kids working together because you have kids with siblings. That is like, I mean, that's like a global conflict when they're all in the same room and they're supposed to cooperate at
Right.
young ages.
um, yeah, I don't have anything.
All right. So I think maybe we touched on this a little bit, but about, the moment that you realize your kid is growing up, like what made you realize that your kid is growing up faster than you expected?
I mean, I think it's a mixture of things. Like for my older two boys, once they started driving, it kind of was like, wow. Like, when Logan graduated, that was a pretty tough day for me, and I didn't think that it would be that tough of a day, but I think it sunk in that like he was 2 or 3 months away from not living with me anymore,
Yeah.
like potentially ever again. And like Davis is 2 to 5 months away from the same thing right now. And, I have a unique situation because I don't have my kids 100% of the time, but it's going to be weird on that Saturday that, the kids come back and Davis isn't with them. Just like it was weird when the kids came back and Logan wasn't with them. So, um, yeah, I think driving specifically was mine. What's that?
Well, so your time's already cut short, and now it's going to be even more so.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm be about 50% done. I mean, for what it's worth, if you include Deanne's kids, we're going to be over 50% done
Yeah.
this upcoming May.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think I think every single situation though is a little bit different. Like Logan, his sophomore year was in a play and he ended up getting the lead role in the play. And I think that day specifically, I was like, this kid's A, he's got some skills, but B, all of the shit that I got frustrated for, like the laziness. I think the lazy came out of my mouth a lot when I was probably communicating with Logan because of
Yeah.
like the trash thing, right? Like he took the trash out, but he didn't put the bag in. My immediate reaction was that's lazy. Well, it's
Yep.
not lazy. To your point, it was poor communication on my part because I said take out the trash, and that's exactly what he did. I
Yep.
didn't say take out the trash and put a bag in, even though in my mind that's what you should have done. But he worked his ass off to get the lead role of the play, and then he killed the lead role. He wasn't he hadn't done any acting roles since like fourth grade, and I watched his show like 3 times. I think 3 out of 4 times. But the thing that to me that was kind of crazy is that I would notice lines would change a little bit. Like he would say stuff a little bit different from one show to the
Yeah.
next. And so we talked about it afterwards. And he was trying to get other people to remember their lines. Like he was helping them. And there were people that had been in drama their whole life. And that's when I was like, man, this kid's, it was impressive. He absolutely killed the role.
I think that's a good topic actually, right there. Nonchalantly doing something to help out other people without anyone else realizing. I think those are pretty crazy moments, and I think that also says a lot about you as a parent. Our kids are reflections of us to a degree. My kids are a lot smarter than I am. Fine with that. Um, but I think when it comes in a sense of hospitality, we don't realize it that a lot of that he learned from you, and all the adults in his life, but primarily the father and the mother. So I think those are really, really cool sections to see within them.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
You know, like, hey, I was changing everything because I wanted to help people remember their lines. You know, that's like a different way of learning to communicate. Wow, I don't like the way that dad communicates with me. Like, same with Ian. You know, I don't like the way that you're talking to me right now. So when I have a conversation with somebody, I'm going to try to have it differently. So it's no. He actually he appreciates it after the fact. He's like, in a moment, I don't necessarily enjoy it when, you know, you say we're having a conversation and I say I need a minute and I say no, we're having a conversation. He's like, I don't like that in a moment. But every time it's done, it's always better. So he's becoming a lot better at asking harder questions. And I think that's because common sense is the question itself isn't as hard as the thought of it. So as time goes on, he's made that mistake and now it's becoming easier for him. But yeah, I think that's really cool. Were the lines like substantially different? Were they more so like he was kind of playing around with the words like the script?
Yeah, so he was trying to prompt them to remember their line because they had froze up, but like I didn't notice it when we were watching it. I just noticed that it was like this is gonna sound really bad, but I don't I wasn't paying attention to anybody else, right? Like I was paying
Yeah.
attention to Logan. I also think Logan was the star of the show. So naturally I was paying attention to Logan, but it's also my son.
Yeah.
But I didn't necessarily pay attention to everybody else's lines and what they were saying and how they were doing it. It was Logan specifically. And when I asked him, he said that he was trying to give some cues for them to remember their line so then they could keep going. And I don't remember when we watched it, I don't remember if there was a show that was better than the rest. They all seemed to be good. And overall, I think all the kids did a good job, not just Logan, even though that was my main focus. But it
Yeah.
was actually it's called Rumors, but it was an enjoyable play to watch.
What was it about?
So it's like a murder mystery and I think it takes place like right in the 80s ish. So yeah, it was kind of like Clue, the movie, if you've ever seen that, or Glass Onion. It's kind of like that style.
Onions?
Glass Onion.
No.
Got it.
I've
It's
seen Murder Mystery though.
You've what?
Murder Mystery.
Is that the Adam Sandler one?
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, similar to that. Similar to
Gotcha.
that. But yeah, it was impressive to see his skill. And I struggled with it a little bit because I was a sophomore year and then he didn't do it his junior or senior year. I think the junior year was a musical and he wasn't really interested. I think Logan could have, like, he can sing. He can sing good enough for sure to be in a musical, but it was just not something he was interested in. Recently, he's actually thought about it a little bit more, going into acting. I think he would do an awesome job. He's got
Yeah.
a big set of balls, man. He's not scared and he's funny. Like I would like to see him do more with acting, honestly.
Yeah.
Or writing or both.
How do you think kids hear criticism all the time from parents and everyone else? There's one specific moment that Ian kind of taught me a little bit about like growth and kind of being proud of yourself and your accomplishments. So he went to his course. He had to go do it. Like it was a very, I guess, like private, like testing facility where you had to have your fingerprint and like all that stuff. Like it was important. And he's been studying his ass off. And we're eating dinner. This is after he's done his testing, and I'm sitting on a couch. And he goes to the bathroom. I don't know if he's taking a shit or what. And then all of a sudden, I hear him like get super loud, like, yeah, like super, super proud, like he just like won something. And I felt, and before anybody gets their fucking panties in a bunch, I felt like, dude, this is ridiculous. Like, why are we reacting that way? And then I realized he is more than capable of like being proud of himself, while I have no idea. Yeah, I just feel like that's too loud. That's too much. Like, no, you can't do that. And I told him, I was like, dude, this sounds so silly. I'm so proud of you and doing so good and passing your EMR, but I'm more so impressed at the fact that you like got so excited and you were jumping up and down and like you let out like a battle cry. I was like, I don't know how the hell to do that. So like the kids learn so much stuff from us, but we learn so much from them. But you're talking about Logan and being talented and brave, and he's got courage to go ahead and do these things. Would you do them?
Is that it? Is that a rhetorical question, or are you really asking me?
No, like I genuinely asked, do you think that like, because there's things that we are really really good at and we're very courageous in, but there's things that our kids are absolutely like just lions in.
Yeah, I was in drama and I would not want the lead role. Yeah, I worked on the set and was like an extra.
Okay,
So
was
the
there
answer
too
to
many
your
eyes on
question
you?
is no.
But like, do you think it's too many eyes on you? Do you think that you're being
Yes.
like, and we don't like that?
Well, honestly, like doing the podcast has helped me get over that to a little bit. I'm not the greatest public speaker. I do have people tell me that I'm better than I think I am, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean shit because I feel like I'm terrible.
Sure.
But doing this, I think, has helped for me to do a little bit more public speaking. Like, I don't do public speaking in itself, but like from a work standpoint, presentations. But to answer your question, there's no fucking way I would do what Logan does.
Well, yeah, and like so, like when we step back and we realize their accomplishments, for them they might even seem trivial. Some stuff we do might seem trivial, but in the reality, in the grand scheme of things, when you step back from your life and you start appreciating the things that are around you, and take a real hard look at your kids and see the amount of growth and confidence that they've developed through the time. Because when we're
That's awesome. I mean,
kids,
I hope it's not like something super important, but that was awesome.
no, he didn't even phase him. There's the TV remote. He's still nope, didn't even phase him. There's holy balls, man.
Do you forget
When
what
we
you're
take
saying?
kind of so when we take a step back, you know, I think we learn that confidence definitely comes from recognition and recognizing our kids and seeing how good they're doing at the things that are important to them, not us, them. For me, it was always like, oh no, I have to make sure that I approve of it, and that's how I can give them encouragement, and that's going to help them grow. And that's wrong. The reality it is, my daughter likes to do her nails. So for me to build her confidence, as much as I fucking hate nails, I say, wow, that looks really, really good. You did a really good job. I think kids definitely need their parents to notice their growth, not ours, but their own, and to appreciate it. But we as parents are pretty busy with life stress, money. The list can go on. So it's important for them to get that from us, that acknowledgement that, hey, you're doing a really good job. Not at not at reading your book, not at doing school. You're doing a really good job of just being yourself and learning to develop the parts of you that you think are important. I think that's the kind of praise that they need to be better.
I think we talked about it last week too. This is going to sound bad, and I don't want it to come across as bad. I think it's important to praise, but I also think it's important to critique so they can continue to get better.
Yeah.
But you can do it in a positive way.
Yep.
And I'll just give you an example. Every game that Davis plays after the game, I go up and I hug him. And then we talk for less than 5 minutes. And it's usually me giving him feedback, whether it's good or bad. The one thing I don't want Davis to do is be lazy. Like outside of that, like be a good teammate. Don't be lazy. Everything, like you can make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Like you can not have your best game, but make sure you put in max effort and you didn't, I don't want to say you didn't let your team down, because if you made a bunch of mistakes, you're probably going to let your team down, but just don't be a shitty teammate about it. Own the problems. So every single game, I usually give him that feedback, whether he played good or he didn't play as good. So, and if I'm being honest, I don't know if he likes it or if he doesn't like it, but we have a pretty good relationship, and I know that I could give him some feedback and he's not going to like, fuck, my dad doesn't think I do anything good, because there's been games where he's played amazing and I've told him that, like, that was the best game you've ever played. You didn't fuck up anything, which isn't true, but like, because naturally, like, you're going to serve into the net or you're going to not serve into bounce. But there's been games where he's just absolutely killed it. So anyways, just to piggyback off of your point, I think it is important to give feedback that isn't always positive, but you could do it in a somewhat positive way as well to help with those encouragements so they can hone in on their skills.
Constructive criticism, not criticism. And I think parents, we like to criticize a lot more. And for the parents out there that say, I don't ever criticize my kids, I said, you might not criticize them verbally, but you do it inside your head. And that action ends up coming out without you even realizing. Your kids know. You can look at your kids and they know what the hell you're saying. There's a right way to do things. And I think there's a right time for everything, right? Your kids runs across the street. They're not looking left and right and they're little. You're the first time, hey, we really can't do that. But if they keep doing it, then that conversation gets loud and abrasive. And at that point, you're like, well, maybe I would scare the shit out of you so you don't do it again. Does it help? No.
Well, and I guess this is probably just my opinion. I mean, at the end of the day, this is all just my opinion anyways. But I think I've also seen parents who don't critique their kids, like legitimately don't critique their kids. Yeah. And those kids are typically assholes.
Yeah.
Just because they think that they're invincible and they can't do anything wrong, because that's what their parents teach them. And I just don't think that that's a great way to parent, in my opinion.
I don't think it's a great way to parent, but it's kind of crazy. Like I have a hard time committing to like one mindset, because the truth is I think there's value in them all. And as much as I don't like that mindset of like the kids think they can never do wrong, like that's not good. That's going to harm them in one way or another as they get older. Man, there's something about that, where you got the confidence to run through a fucking brick wall, whether you're going to make it to the other side or not. You're committed to it.
Oh, it's all fun and games until you end up with a concussion.
Then you're left with a good story.
Well, and to your point, like, I don't really, like, my mom doesn't think that I'd do anything wrong. I shouldn't say it like that, but growing up, I think that my mom thought that I was, if the cops showed up at the house and said Patrick killed somebody, she would legitimately be like, what did they do to him? Right? Like,
yeah.
It would always be somebody else's fault. It would never be my fault. Yeah. That's how I feel that my mom, and I love that my mom supports me like that. Thankfully, I have a decent amount of my own self-awareness to know, and Davis does too. And that's why I feel like I can give him that feedback, and he's not going to be like in his feelings. It's not going to fuck up his headspace, because he knows that he didn't do his best, and he knows when he played really well. So I just like to give him the encouragement and make sure that he recognizes when he wasn't at his best.
Yeah.
What's like Logan's a little bit different. Like, you got to be careful as he's gotten older and matured, it's definitely been different, but you got to be careful how you give Logan feedback, because he could take it super personal. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to do it to defeat my kid. I'm trying to get him to recognize it and learn from it and get better.
So this is a kind of a segue into our next section, but you talk about like parent realization. Well, what signs show you that your parenting is actually working? I think one of those signs is you as a parent realizing that, hey, there's different strokes for different folks. There's something that's going to work for one kid, and then my other kid, I have to do this a little bit differently. But realistically, I think ultimately we try to communicate to our kids the way that we want to be communicated to. And that's the difficult part that comes with it because we're adults and we're able to take certain feedback a lot easier than kids that are growing up into adulthood or very young adults. I think there's one of the things that lets us know that parenting is working is when we're actually becoming better parents, when we're becoming a lot more aware of how our communication is to them and what works for them. And I think they realize it too. They don't say it out loud because they're kids, but one day they'll say, hey man, there was a time, Dad, where, I just felt like you were beating me down. And then as I got older, I started to realize you weren't trying to beat me down. You were just communicating. And I just didn't like the way that you were communicating. It might have worked for you, but it didn't work for me. And then something along the line changed. Then you just started to make sense to me. And then now I understand and I appreciate you. I think we'll all get there one day, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's what happened with Logan, honestly. Like, I probably was way more abrasive with him. And I'm just so we're clear, I'm probably more abrasive with Davis now, but I was more abrasive with him. And it didn't ruin our relationship, but it definitely like put a lot of tension there. Like he just felt like he couldn't do anything right. And it wasn't until, and I've managed people for, 16 plus years. Logan's 20. So essentially I've been managing people Logan's whole entire life. And I don't manage people at work the same.
Yeah.
But at home, I was managing my kids the same. And with Davis, it wasn't a problem because I think he appreciates a little bit more direct feedback. And Logan, it was different. It caused some rifts. And once I read Extreme Ownership, I kind of like started understanding things a little bit different. And Logan and Davis aren't the same kids. So why are you parenting them the same way? Parent them differently. And it's, I think it's personally helped me and Logan's relationship. I think we have a really good relationship, especially for a kid who is he's 20 years old and not in the state.
Yeah.
We talk a couple times a week via text message, and then we usually jump on a phone call for about an hour every weekend. So
there you go. That's all that we can do. Make sure that our kids are appreciated. We take steps back. We acknowledge it. We see their growth. We see their value that they've provided to not only themselves, but to us in our lives. As we get older, we're able to communicate that better to them. And as they get older, they're able to understand that communication a little bit better. One day they'll have kids and they'll understand it even more. Wow, I thought this was so easy. But being a parent takes a lot of work. And it's not even, the funny thing about being a parent, it's not about the work that, it physically takes. It's about the work that you have to do within yourself to be that better parent. And that accountability within yourself to be like, wow, I'm screwing the pooch here. Let's not do that anymore.
I think you worded that very well.
I think it's a very difficult thing to do.
When you don't realize that you have to do it when you first have a kid, right? Like it's weird. It's weird because we've talked about this a lot, but you're growing more than your kid's growing kind of in a weird way. And you would never even and that never crossed my mind when, Logan was born, that I was going to have to grow so much as a human being. And dude, I sucked as a dad in the early years. My kids weren't the priority that they should have been. So
I think that beginning it's easy, like quote unquote. I think it's easy because they're not talking back. they're not developing their personalities. And as they get older, that's when the work kind of really comes in, because now you're dealing with the personality. Now you're dealing with the things that they want to do and how they see themselves and see the world. And it might be different than yours. And that's such a difficult thing as a parent to like realize, and not realize, but like to comprehend it and say, that's okay. And I think it takes a lot of time to say, that's okay. My kids are allowed to have different viewpoints than me. My kids are allowed to like things that I don't like. They're allowed to pursue this, even though I think it's silly. Well, what's silly to me, I can imagine if I was a kid and I was looking back at myself, telling my kids, no, you can't do that. My younger self would be like, dude, really? Like, what happened to you? Like, don't you know what this feels like? So I think that's one thing I've learned as I'm going through it is I used to be a kid, and parenting is so difficult because I think we forget how to be kids and forget about the parents that we said we'd be one day. Well, we have to remember, and what would have made us happy back then.
Right.
Us not having dads growing up, it's hard for us to be like, oh, well, you know, when I was a kid, it was like, I didn't have the dad, so I don't know what dad would have said to me. Okay, well, what would you have liked them to say? Hey, you're being dumb, don't do that shit? Or, hey, I see you worked really hard on this. Can we do this a little bit later? We got other stuff going on. I think ultimately communication is key, and especially if we're reflecting on how much our kids are grown, we have to learn to communicate to ourselves and to them better and better.
For sure.
Right? Do you want to do Fatherhood Unscripted?
I'm down to do it. It'll be pretty simple because I've already done it. But yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
So for me, it was Davis. Davis started playing volleyball about 4 years ago recreationally. Last year was the first year that he had played high school. He was playing recreational, and it was last year he played for a school, and then this past summer, where are we at? This past winter, he played for a club team, and all that hard work, he was able to make varsity. He made varsity. They actually switched his position and had him start on Saturday. He played about 50% of the game. The coach is definitely way smarter than I am when it comes to volleyball, but I've never seen a coach rotate players so much.
Yeah.
And so literally about 10 of the kids played 50% of the time. So he just rotates through the lineups quite a bit. So it was really cool to see. Davis actually was not feeling great, but he played okay. It wasn't like amazing, but like first time he'd ever played the position in a game. Dude was sick, and yeah, I was just really proud of him. It was really cool to see, you know, my kid play for a 5A school and start varsity. So
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. Let's see all the hard work you put in.
well, I kept telling him to go to the gym because like he was playing so much volleyball that I was like, you need to go work on your legs so you can jump.
Yeah.
I mean, he can jump way higher than me. So, but yeah, he's a pretty good volleyball player. I don't think he could play like Division 1 collegiately. Eventually he might be able to, but I think this might be the end outside of going back to recreational, but we'll see what he does.
As long as it makes him happy.
Yeah, he loves it. His buddies all play, so I think that makes it better.
Yeah, I would say so.
It's my unscripted.
I think mine is just, it'll be. So last week, my daughter's daughter a sleepover, and there were some problems. She had a sleepover Friday night and Saturday night. Well, Friday night, the two girls that were there, just one of them was causing some issues, and my daughter was frustrated. So the next night, when they were having a sleepover, we're getting ready to. I walked outside. My daughter was like upset, like she was crying. She's very emotional. Like she is such a, she's like a rock. and a glass of water. There's no in between. So I brought her in. I said, "Hey, what's the matter? Why are we crying?" She said, "Well, last night was really tough. It was a bit overwhelming." I said, "Well, you don't have to have a sleepover. You're allowed to not be a part of it because it's too much for you." And she said, "No, I'm good." I said, "You just have to learn how to communicate it better." When she got home the next day, she's like, "Yeah, we talked about it and we set some ground rules." And she's like, "It went a lot better." I said, "Thank you." I think for me, in a grand scheme of things, I'm like, that's not a big deal. Well, as a kid, being able to have communications with your friends that aren't about easy things, I think is a pretty difficult thing to do as a kid because usually you just go like this and friendships, separate.
Yep.
So I was proud of the way that she handled it, even though she was upset and it made her really uncomfortable. Because I don't want my kid going to have a sleepover because somebody is there and being like, I had a miserable time. That's the complete opposite. You're supposed to go there, have a good time, and come home and tell us all about it. Everything went good that night.
It could ruin sleepovers for her for the future.
Exactly. Yep. And, she was upset. She had a little cry. And then she was all good. And the next morning she came home, told me about it for 5 minutes, and then she passed out on the couch for 3 hours.
So they were up.
They went to bed at 10 o'clock, but the day before they went to bed at 5 a.m.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I told her friend's mom, I said, "You either have a death wish or like you have the patience of a saint. I can't imagine having 4 girls at my house." I was like, 2 is my max. My daughter and her friend, no one else. I was like, there's no chance. I don't think I'd be able to take it.
Yeah, that's a bold strategy.
That is a bold strategy. Well,
All right.
want to do a recap?
Yeah. I think I'll start it. If I miss anything, let Dimitri jump in here. But I think it's more about appreciating the children you're raising and enjoying I don't want to say small victories, but kind of the small victories instead of always being angry and critiquing every single thing your kids do because it's not the way that you wanted it done, or not the way you would have done it. Yeah. For me, it's, my kids are a little bit older than yours, Dimitri, but I feel like I'm starting to build more of a friendship, which this is kind of my goal as a parent when I was younger, is you parent your kids at a young age so you can enjoy a friendship at an old age with your kids. And I think that I've seen a lot of people that want to be friends with their kids at a young age, and I don't think it always ends well, personally. But yeah, I think Logan and I don't have similar interests. Like, it's different. But we are similar people, obviously, because he's 50% me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's turning more into a friendship. Same thing with Davis. Like, he's 18, he's getting ready to graduate. He's going to go work potentially construction or some kind of trade. And that'll be a similarity that him and I are going to have. So yeah, that's my recap. It was probably a shit recap, but here we are.
That was terrible. I'm just kidding. You know, think our kids grow at a rate that we don't really realize because we're always standing so close to them that before we know it, they're up to our shoulders and then they're up to our heads. There's so much growth that happens in between, and there's what do they always say? Is to enjoy the journey, not the destination. I think we as parents tend to think that, you know what, if we just buckle down, the destination will just be so good and it'll be so good. And we forget that the journey that comes with it. And when we appreciate our kids, it's more so taking a second to admire how much that they've grown. Now, when somebody sees you after a year, they say, wow, dude, there's some things that have changed about you. And you don't realize when you're losing weight specifically. And it's like, man, I can't believe how much you've changed. We don't realize it. Well, so our kids are the same way. They don't realize how much they've changed. So our job as parents, I think, is to take the growth that they've developed, acknowledge it, appreciate it, and let them know and remind them that one day they'll be older, but right now they have to enjoy where they're at because you won't always have these moments. So appreciate your kids' growth. Take a step back. Tell them thank you. I mean, I feel like I have to tell my kids thank you. There's so much that they've done without me realizing. Sometimes there's apology that needs to be said. Hey, I'm sorry for not appreciating all the things you've done. I know you're working your butt off. I know that this, and that is important to you. So I should be a little bit more on board and tell you that we appreciate and support you. So support your kids ultimately and take a step back and admire them from a distance.
You started to ramble, but you articulated that way better than I did.
I did start to ramble. I felt that.
You felt it.
I had to cut myself off.
All right. You ready for a question?
I'm ready.
So I'm going to give you 3, similar to what we did last time. If you had to swap lives with one of your kids for a full week, what part of their life would scare you the most?
Man, I think I'd want to swap with my daughter just because I'd be curious to see like what goes on in her head. I think she's the one that gives me the most trouble. And not because she's a bad kid, but I think it's just I'd want to understand her a bit more and what she's going through in school and what it's like being, a daughter to me. So I think she's the one that I would get the most out of.
Do you think it's because she's a female and you're a male?
I'm sure there's some of that's there. There's just a clear misunderstanding, but I think I'm pretty understanding in a sense of like connecting the dots. So I don't necessarily ever look at anything as like, oh, well, you're a girl, that's why you think this way, and I'm a guy, that's why I think this way. I look at everything at a very, black and white kind of way. Hey, this happened, so this is how you reacted. You reacted this way, that's why I'm reacting this way. And here we are both frustrated and upset. So let's take a step back and kind of reconvene for a moment. Um, I think I just want to understand her.
No,
That's
that makes sense. I think for me, it's the 2 younger ones. August for just having a little bit of a, I don't want to say a learning disability, but it is a little bit of a learning disability, but just kind of see what a week in his life is like. But the flip side is I know that him and I butt heads quite a bit to just see how things look from his perspective.
Yeah.
And then for me, the other answer is Ev, and it is because she's a female. From her perspective, how does life look, right? Like it's different. Plus, she's young, so doesn't have like social media or any of that stuff, and it seems pretty innocent. So,
How do we look like when we're disciplining them?
right.
How scary isn't it?
All right, next one. If parents got report cards from their kids, what subject would you probably fail?
Mm. Excitement.
Excitement.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I'm always so like mentally exhausted that there's a lot of things and like I have my own shit going on. And I think that there's so many things that I want to do with my kids, but sometimes I feel like I'm just crippled by other things that I can't. So I think I would fail at that. Like, I mean, we traveled around in a fifth wheel for almost 3 years. We saw a lot of places. We did a lot of things. But now I think that's, went downhill by so much that I guess what would that be called? Playtime or recess or something? Me and my son went outside the other day and we fought with lightsabers. You know, we're running through the streets swinging lightsabers at each other that are lighting up and changing colors every time we hit. But that's something me and him do. I think altogether, not as exciting as I'd like to be. So I don't know what subject that would be.
Um, well, I think, and mine's not going to be a subject either, but I think mine would probably be engagement. Like, um, as I've gotten older, I've gotten much better, but I still struggle. The same thing that you're talking about, the mental drain. Um, and sometimes when I'm physically there, I'm not always mentally there. And so I feel like that's the one that I would fail. All right, last one. If every parenting decision had to be voted on by the entire family, what's one of your rules that would immediately get overturned?
Eat your veggies.
Eating your veggies.
Think maybe that would. Eat your veggies or no yelling.
That's one
Like,
of your rules.
yeah, like I don't like no yelling at each other or like being like too loud. Like my brain gets scrambled. Feel like maybe they'd be like, no, it's too bad, dude.
um, I was thinking mine might be potentially food related too, because I'm real big on, you can't have dessert if you don't eat your food. And we don't always
That's
have
a good
dessert,
point.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I hadn't thought about it before I asked the question, so I don't really know, but that's the one that stands out to me. I don't feel like I have a lot of other, so yeah, it'd have to be something food related for sure.
Makes sense.
Cool. Well, good episode.
I agree. So, closing out tonight before your kids go to sleep, tell them something that you notice about them. Don't correct them, not advice, just something that you genuinely appreciate about them that they did that day. Let them go to sleep with that thought and see where they wake up tomorrow.
Compass on.
Compass on. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Do, do, do.